Diablo's essence lingers in the Black Soul Stone. I cannot destroy the stone, nor allow its evil to remain within the heavens. And so it must be hidden, even from the angels. I pray that it will be enough. Done well, Horadrim. Your service here is finished, and you should all run. Malfail.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the game director, Josh Mosquera.
Hey Gamescom, how you doing? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming here for a big announcement. I'm really happy to introduce to you guys Reaper of Souls, the next expansion for Diablo 3. I'm Josh Mosquera, the game director, and really excited to be here today and sort of lift the veil and show you guys what's in store for you guys in Reaper of Souls. Our goal when we started the project was simple, was to capture that fantasy that is at the heart of Diablo and really deliver it. And for us it means three things. The first one is epic heroes. Whether you're the barbarian, or the demon hunter, or the witch doctor, the players take on these bigger-than-life roles. You are one of the few Nephilim who must fight against the forces of darkness. And for this expansion, we're introducing a brand new villain to the world of Diablo. We're introducing Malfail, the fallen angel of wisdom, and his legion of death angels. But for us, it's not just about epic heroes or evil villains. At the end of the day, it's about the promise of epic loot. So we've done a lot of work from the ground up to really re-envision what loot means in Diablo, and really excited to show you guys what we have in store for you. But what is Reaper of Souls? Well, it's a feature-rich expansion. And the star of the hour is the Crusader, our new class. He is the righteous warrior of wrath. He is your knight, not in shining, but in battle-scarred armor. And he brings our total of playable classes to 6. We are also increasing the level cap to 70, which means that all the classes are getting new toys to play with in the shape of skills, passives, and runes. We're also continuing the story of Diablo 3 with a brand new act centered around Malthael and his quest to destroy and eradicate all humans from the face of Sanctuary. And it's up to the player to try to stop death. But we're not just stopping at a new class and a new act. We also rethought what the end game means for everyone. And here our focus is to try to provide with players with as many different options when it comes to the end game. The two I'm going to talk about today are what we call loot runs and the upgrade to the Paragon system. But before I do that, I want to invite Brian up here to tell you guys a little bit of the story behind Reaper of Souls. Brian?
I'm Brian Kindergan, lead writer of Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls. So at the end of Diablo 3, the hero had defeated the primeval, Diablo, and trapped him in the Black Soulstone. And Tyrael stepped forward to proclaim this new age of angel and man working together, an age of peace. And it seemed like nothing could go wrong. There was just this one little problem of the Black Soulstone. With Diablo's essence trapped in it, it is the most powerful artifact in creation. And as you heard in the cinematic, Tyrael didn't know if it could be destroyed or what would happen if it was, and so he decided to hide it away deep under Sanctuary. And that was the smartest thing he could have done, because even Tyrael, with all of his wisdom, could not have foreseen the return of Malthael. So Malthael was, for long, the leader of the angels. He would lead them into combat. He was the architect of the eternal conflict. And he was the angel that all of the other angels would come to for wisdom and guidance. And then one day, he simply disappeared. Nobody knew where he went or if he would return. They sent his followers after him, his wisdom angels, and they never came back. And time went on. And now, Malthael has returned, and he's the angel of death. His followers are back too, and now they are death angels, called Reapers. And Malthael has a very simple motivation. He wants to end the eternal conflict. To do so, he has to destroy all of the demons. And there's one really big demon faction out there that's still going strong in his eyes, and that's humanity. Because humans are born of angel and demon, and in his eyes, humans are demonic, and they've got to be destroyed. So he sends his Reapers to Westmarch, which is the largest city in the West. It's the cultural, spiritual, and military center of the West, and it's the most powerful city on Sanctuary. And so that's where the reaping will begin. And because Malthael is particularly insidious, his death angels go there and they start killing people and then resurrecting their corpses and turning them into death constructs, which add to Malthael's army. And so he's able to turn the dead people of Westmarch against their neighbors and family and loved ones. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the look of Reaper of Souls. And I'd like to ask Christian to come up and talk about that.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Christian Leitner. I'm the art director on Diablo 3, and I'm really excited about speaking about our newest villain, Malthael. Of course, it's not every time you actually get to design death itself, so this is always very exciting for us. We took some of the visual cues from past lore, but ultimately for his expansion, we really want to make sure that we gave him his very distinct look and really underscore the darker aspect of this new expansion. Now, some of the key elements we really wanted to focus in on as we were working on him was mainly, and first and foremost, his gaunt, dark, foreboding presence. That really implies and belies his incredible, immense power. He has angelic weapons, as you've seen, the twin sickles, that really he uses to slice his enemies. And he has this incredible power to literally drain his victims from their very souls. Now, also, he has his angelic armor, and really every cue we took visually was to imbue it with skulls and the sickles that you see him using. And the goal there was to really make sure that he came across as death incarnate. His angelic wings are ethereal and skeletal, and really leave no doubt that this is the angel of death. Now, of course, this is not the only new villain that you will be facing in Sanctuary. What would an awesome expansion be without new and exciting monsters? As Malthael invades Sanctuary, he literally is converting his victims into monstrous constructs, as Brian mentioned. And they have to follow his every whim and desire. And every new characteristic and ability for these new monsters that you get to play with are as follows. The Seraph here that you see is a dark ranged caster. The Summoner of the Dead raises literally the armies around him to fight against you as you play your way through the expansion. The Executioner is a huge hulking monstrosity with powerful melee attacks. And last but not least, we have the Death Maidens, who, unlike the constructs you've seen before, are actually fallen angels, who are Malthael's most trusted and deadly lieutenants. Of course, with all these new monsters, you need a perfect setting. And we're really excited about sharing with you Westmarch. Now, as Brian mentioned, in Sanctuary, Westmarch is literally the sprawling city of the West. And is the perfect environment to host your struggle against these evil invaders. Visually, we really took a lot of cues from the Gothic sort of Western European influences, and we really want to make sure that the medieval vibe came through as strong as we could. We really want to get to the heart of what makes Diablo Diablo. Also, Westmarch is fully randomizable, and as a result, provides seamless integration between exterior and interior scenes. So as you play the game, you literally will be able to seamlessly transition through interior spaces and exterior spaces. Now, of course, as you delve deeper into Westmarch, you will encounter many of its deep and dark secrets, one of them being these terrifying death orbs. And really, at the heart of it all will be one question for you. Can you help and save Westmarch from the evil clutches of Malthael and his Death Reapers? And to help us answer that question, we have Kevin.
So, the Crusader. When we go to make a new class for something in Diablo, we ask ourselves a few questions. What is the core strong fantasy? How do you as a player feel awesome playing a class? What is the connection to the world of Sanctuary? Why does this person take on the forces of darkness? And what is the cool tactical combat role that these characters have? So to tackle the first two questions, why the Crusader and what is his backstory? His backstory is that hundreds of years ago, the Paladins, last seen in Diablo 2, pushed west on their grand crusade, bringing the Zakarum faith with fire and sword. This act ultimately culminated in the founding of the city of Westmarch. Meanwhile, as they pushed west, a small special forces unit of the Paladins, called the Crusaders, pushed east on a secret mission. Now the Crusader is back here at the end of all things to stop the forces of darkness yet again. So, the Crusader, the tactical role that they have was really inspired by the fantasy. So we want a mid-range melee character, but why did we want that? We're thinking, what happens if you mix the Paladin, that knight in shining armor, with the Spartan war ethos, mixed with a modern armored tank? When we get something that is so heavily armored, it is literally an immovable object, and it uses its armor as part of its weaponry. So that's where the shields come in. The Crusaders have Crusader shields. These shields are a core part of their weapons, and we'll show you a few skills in just a moment here. And they have the flails, the big heavy thing. So the Crusader, with his huge armor, wants to be in the middle of a group of enemies, and with his Holy Wrath abilities, he has mid-range spells that he can cast around the battlefield to control the whole thing, and keep the enemies running towards him, destroying ranged enemies in the distance. So we call that a war machine made human, a tank in human form. Let's get right to it. Shield bash. Crusader shields. These, their armor percentage is calculated into the damage a Crusader does. This is just one of the many skills that use the shield as a weapon. Fist of the Heavens, one of just a couple of spells from Diablo 2 from the Paladins that are returning here. This is that mid-range melee ability. So while he's fighting in the middle of a group of enemies where he wants to be, he can strike at a distance as well. We thought we'd take that fantasy one step further, and that's where Falling Sword comes in. So if a tank has a shell or an artillery strike at a distance, what if the Crusader, being a medieval warrior, literally was the missile? He becomes the missile with Holy Wrath, and that's where Falling Sword comes from. So enough talk for a moment. We actually have a playable demo for everybody, a fully playable demo on the show floor, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of that right now, just a little section of it. Can we please switch to the demo? Okay, so for this particular build of the Crusader, we have 6 abilities. I'm going to layer them all in, and then we'll unleash hell on the enemies towards the end.
So we start on the outskirts of Westmarch. The Crusader has heard about the massacre happening in the city, and so he doesn't know all of the details of what's going on or why, but he immediately makes his way there to try to put an end to the killing. And right off the bat, you run into Borat. He's the young Haradrim that Tyrael sent to find you during the cinematic. So he's got a quick message for you before you send him off to get Tyrael and bring him back to the city.
And even here, as you're actually looking down, you see Westmarch in the distance. And looking there, you can actually tell that something obviously is not quite right. And maybe we should go down there and explore a little bit further.
So the first 2 abilities I've been showing off are Fist of the Heavens, this one, and Punish, which is one of his primary attacks with his flail. As we move into the city, we're going to use Shield Glare. Holy energy comes down from the heavens, reflects off your shield, and blinds your enemies.
So obviously bad things are happening in the city here. You start to run into people fleeing. And you're going to see here how Malthael is able to actually turn the people of Westmarch into his reapers, his death constructs, and turn them against their friends.
And let's show off another ability. Here's Consecration. We'll let them surround me first. Well, me or my enemies stand within the circle, or my allies stand within the circle, we're healed. In addition, this has a rune where enemies take holy fire damage.
So Kevin, it looks like Malthael has sealed the gate, and you're going to have to find another way into the city. And as you do, you'll notice that anytime you come across these corpses, they'll rise to fight you, because anything that's dead is a tool of Malthael.
Now, as we see Kevin here sort of trying to find a different entry into Westmarch, you'll see a great example of the seamless switching between interior spaces and exterior spaces. So as he's here finding the actual entryway, going inside, and this is the waterway. And as you can see, the lighting changes, and we're now in an interior space.
And it's really important, those transitions really help sell a sense of place, makes Westmarch feel like a real city in Sanctuary, and again, it really shows off the great Gothic feel in the architecture of Westmarch.
So you're about to find a small group of refugees huddling here. They're actually out of danger because they're safe inside the walls. So if you're searching for refugees, you're going to need to keep moving. And so you can run right past them. We're trying to keep a lot of the storytelling as ambient as possible. And now we're about to meet one of Malthael's signature lieutenants, the Death Maiden. She does this horrible thing to these people and then gets away. So you don't get to fight her yet, but hopefully you'll track her down later.
We're going to activate the Law of Valor. It's a passive ability, much like the mantras, where I gain extra damage as I do critical hits, but it also has an activation bonus of extra damage for everybody. So the only ability we haven't seen yet is Falling Sword. Let's do that now. Artillery Strike.
Making its way up here, you can see that there's a wide variety of environments in West March. We're trying to really sort of make it interesting for the players from moving for tight spaces where you have to use different strategies and tactics to wide open spaces where you actually fight your way through West March.
Here's a good example of tactics. I'm with melee enemies here. There's 2 archers at the side. Let's take them out.
Well, that's where I hate him.
Hold on, the game is about loot.
Oh, no, great.
Awesome.
So now the Crusader is making his way into the cathedral, and this is where he's heard a rumor that there's a bunch of refugees hiding, and they're not safe here. So the Crusader's got to get into the cathedral and try to stabilize the situation before he can worry about anything else. Just save as many civilians as possible.
And one of the things I really love about the Crusader is how the tactical combinations of all the skills to really give a really great feeling as a for the player. You can come up with some great 1, 2, 3 combos.
And you saw that a bunch of those Reapers were running towards the cathedral, and that's because they can sense life. When they sense the living nearby, they're going to make right for it and try to end it. So now Tyrael shows up. Lorath ran and got him. He's here. He's injured, but he's ready to team up with you. And now that you two have joined forces, you're going to be able to go into that cathedral and find out what's going on, because it might not be pretty.
Well, that looks friendly.
Looks great.
Yeah, no trouble ahead.
So some bad stuff happened here. But at last, you get to confront that Death Maiden. So now it's a chance to fight her. And it looks like she was creating some kind of a spell with that black orb. And we don't know what that is yet, but you may find out at another time.
So let's talk a little bit more about tactics. The Death Maiden teleports around a lot, so I have sort of 3 different ways of stopping her. I can strike at a distance, I can blind her, and I can use Falling Sword for that distance strike when she runs away.
Nice work. There it is.
So we found 2 special Crusader weapons. The Crusader Shield, which again, the armor percentage is part of the Crusader's damage. This is a massive upgrade here. And we found a legendary item. So targeted legendaries are a new system we have. Because I'm playing the Crusader and it's the first time I've killed this boss, I get a guaranteed legendary. This particular one is God Butcher. It's perfect for the Crusader because it has a chance to pull its enemies in and slow them, and so you're right in the middle of the action always where you want to be. When you guys play this demo, in just a little while, you're going to be able to try this weapon out yourself.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
You, Kevin. Thanks. All right. All right, now you just got a good sense of what the story is, who the Crusader is, and you saw a little bit of the demo. I want to get into some of the details, because for us it's really important that we really revamp and we really sort of change our philosophy when it comes to loot. As you saw in the demo, Kevin was finding a few upgrades while playing, and especially that targeted legendary really speaks to the changes we're making with what we're calling internally as Loot 2.0. Our basic philosophy is that we want to make sure that playing the game is the most fun, the most rewarding way to get items. The way we're guaranteeing that is by focusing on making sure that we're dropping less but better and more epic loot overall. really want to make sure that we're not constantly filling up your bag with items you don't care about. And when you do find an item you care about, that it actually has a meaningful change to your character. We want to make sure that our legendaries are as build changing as we can make them. So I'm going to talk about some of the systems that are going to allow us to really deliver on the promise of Loot 2.0. And the first one is smart drops. So what are smart drops? Every time an item drops, there's a chance that we're going to tweak its stats, its affixes, so they're tailor-made for the class that you're currently playing. So if I was playing a Demon Hunter and this quiver dropped for me, you're seeing already that got a really good dexterity boost, good vitality, but more importantly, if you look at the legendary affixes, the ones in yellow, those are really the ones that we're talking about making the legendaries as awesome and as epic as we can make them. But before I really get into more of our legendaries, I just want to quickly show you guys a comparison between where loot is right now in Diablo 3 and what you guys can expect come Reaper of Souls. So if you're going to take a normal playthrough of Act 3 with a Paragon level 40 character, this is the quantity of loot that is currently dropping in Diablo 3. So that player found 256 common items, 399 blue items, 275 yellow items, and 1 legendary. So there's hope that one of these items was good for you. So now let's fast forward and let's take that exact same playthrough of Act 3, but bring it into Reaper of Souls and show you some of our early results from our experiments with Loot 2.0. First thing, 73 whites. Drastic reduction from what you saw in Diablo 3, but more importantly, we're making these useful because we're introducing a new crafting reagent around common items. So there'll be a reason for you to pick them up. Blue items get a reduction as well. They're still important that you find a lot of these because these are the items that you're going to be using for reagents, but we're also introducing transmog, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But the real important change is when it comes to the rare or the yellow items. Big change from 275 to 83. The thing to keep in mind is that every single one of those items, those 83, is a chance to be a smart drop item. That means that we're increasing the chances of you finding a side grade or an upgrade. And finally, what about those legendaries? In that playthrough of Act 3, we found 6 legendary items. It doesn't mean that we're throwing out legendaries like they're going out of fashion. The thing is, there's still going to be those really rare legendaries that players are going to want to hunt for, but we want to make sure that players are seeing legendaries more often, and they're really trying to deliver on the promise of making those legendaries build changers. So let's take a quick look at some of the legendaries that dropped during this playthrough. So here we have the puzzle ring. There's 2 versions. The version that is currently dropping in Diablo 3, and the version that will be dropping in Reaper of Souls. The thing you'll notice right away is that the Reaper of Souls version is actually rolling up to level 70. One of the changes we're making is making sure that all the legendaries can roll at all levels. But the most important change is if you look at the legendary affix. If you equip this ring, you're going to summon the treasure goblin. And what is that treasure goblin going to do? Every time there's items on the ground, after you're killing all the monsters in Diablo, there's a chance that that treasure goblin will drop a rare or legendary item for you. It's a great example of how we're trying to make our items, our legendary items, interesting. But how do we make them build changers? Let's take a look at a wizard-specific legendary. Here we have the Serpent's Sparker. And what's cool about the Serpent Sparker is it is built around the Hydra skill. One of my favorite skills when it comes to playing a wizard. And the effect here is that every single time you kill a monster, there's a chance it's going to summon a Hydra. So if one Hydra was cool, could you imagine a battlefield of Hydras just laying waste to all the monsters? Good example of how we want to make our legendaries build changers. And finally, a Monk legendary. This was really built around Dashing Strike. So here you notice that if Dashing Strike hits an enemy that is more than 25 yards away, it's essentially a free skill. Again, a really good example of how we want players to be using these legendaries that they're finding more often to really build their characters around these great items. But we're not just making changes to the low-level item gameplay by dropping less, better, or more epic items. We are also introducing a new artisan to Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls, the Mystic. Now what can the Mystic do for you? 2 fantastic things. The first one is transmogrify, which means that you no longer have to sacrifice your visuals of how your character looks for power. So you have a very particular look of how you want your character to look. You can go to the Mystic, and you can essentially choose any of the appearances of any of the items that you've picked up in the game, and a small gold cost, swap that appearance for the one you really want. But the really exciting change with the Mystic is enchanting. And what can you do with enchanting? Enchanting allows you to re-roll a single affix in any rare or legendary item. So if you have, for example, you have an item with intelligence on it and you want something different, you go through the Mystic, and there's a chance that you might get the affix you really want to make that item exactly what you want. But again, we're not just stopping at loot, we're also rethinking our end game. And one of our big driving goals is to make sure we have an end game for everyone. Whether you played 100 or 1,200 hours of Diablo, or you just finished, or just killed Diablo once, we want to make sure there's something for everyone after they finish playing the story. The first thing players are going to encounter is, with a new level cap of 70, every class in the game is getting new toys to play with in the shape of skills, runes, and passives. The really exciting change that we're adding is a brand new way of playing Diablo 3, and that is what we're calling loot runs. What's a loot run? Well, it's a 15 to 20 minute dungeon, multi-tiered dungeon, where we fully randomize the environments, we fully randomize the monsters, the weather, and most importantly, the boss at the end that you need to defeat if you want to walk out of the dungeon with all the loot. So here's some simple screenshots of some of the loot runs. Here we have the cathedral with different lighting conditions and different monsters. Same here for the Oasis. And here I have some of the Zoltan Pool's archives. And again, we're really leveraging the full randomization that's at the heart of Diablo, and making sure that there's an interesting and a very novel new way to not just play, but more importantly, get those legendaries that you want so much. And finally, last thing I want to talk to you guys is what changes we're making to the Paragon system. There are 3 big changes. The first one is that it's no longer, it is now account-wide. So as long as you have one character at max level, all your characters will get to benefit from Paragon. The other thing we're changing, there's no longer a ceiling, there's no cap. So if you want to be Paragon 100, 200, 300, 400, 1200, as long as you want to keep playing, you're going to be gaining Paragon levels, and more importantly, Paragon points. So for the first time in D3, we're going to give you, the players, the feature you guys wanted from the beginning. It's a way to fully customize your character. So every time you gain a Paragon level, you'll be able to spend a Paragon point on any of your characters to either increase your core stats, your offensive stats, your defensive stats, or your venturing stats. And this will allow you to tweak and tune your Barbarian, your Crusader, your Demon Hunter exactly how you want them to be. So, by introducing a new class with the Crusader, continuing the story in a more dark, more gothic setting of Westmarch, and all the changes we're making to loot runs, and the Paragon system, you have a really awesome feature-rich expansion for you guys to get your hands on when it comes out. Now, one last surprise for you guys. You have the world premiere of our gameplay trailer. Let's roll it. to thank you all for coming. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys online, see if we can stop death together. But I'm really happy to announce that our game is fully playable in Hall 7. So head over there, try out the Crusader, get a glimpse of the first 20 minutes of West March. And again, thank you so much for coming, and see you guys in West March. Thanks.